I've been calling it social justice media or anti-social media, but I'm convinced in the wake of the Las Vegas attacks that social media is just making us dumber, or at least meaner and angrier at one another. I'm Steve Green. This is Right Angle with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. And listen, I don't know, you've probably seen the most famous of these angry left-wing responses to the horrible massacre in Las Vegas Sunday night. But I'm going to read just the worst of these to you. The first one, the most famous one, I think, was from a CBS high-level attorney, Haley Geftman Gold. And I should say she's a former CBS attorney. The network, whatever else you want to say about it, canned her as soon as this came out. But in response to a Facebook post, she wrote, if they, meaning Republicans in Congress, wouldn't do anything when children were murdered, I assume she's talking about Sandy Hook, I have no hope that repugs will ever do the right thing. I'm actually not even sympathetic because country music fans are often Republican gun toters. Scott, a high-level attorney, somebody well-educated, somebody well-paid, put everything at risk, lost everything, I suppose, for one moment of anger on Facebook. What the hell are we doing here?
There used to be sort of a social contract among people that there were things you said in public and in company, and then there were other things that it was permissible to say in the privacy of your own home or with a few trusted individuals or whatever. But that barrier is completely down, and it just seems like, I guess I'm kind of grateful that it is, because I want to know who she is. I want to know that CBS has hired somebody like this. I'd rather her do this on Facebook than to privately think these things and just basically to build her commentary and her philosophy and her presentation on TV around it. Right before we recorded the show, I suggested that Twitter and Facebook ought to use the slogan from a great Queen song, which I believe was called "Death on Two Legs." And the new Twitter and Facebook social media slogan should be, "You're a sewer rat decaying in a cesspool of pride." It just seems like everybody feels like they have to they can never have an unexpressed thought. And I for one celebrate the fact that we outed this person by her own hand.
Yeah, it's obviously the best way to go. Listen, I stayed away from Twitter yesterday, and on Facebook, all I did was posted pictures of a chicken I was roasting and of my adorable puppy, and stayed the heck away from politics on a hot button day like yesterday was. But I did a Google News search of Geftman Gold, and there were only a couple other hits for her. I thought maybe I'd get a bunch because she does work for CBS. But as it turns out, the only one of two stories I found is she was one of the co-throwers of a Hillary Clinton victory party on the streets of Brooklyn last November. And the story ended with her telling the reporter that she spent the night curled up in the fetal position. So clearly this is a woman that has some difficulty handling
Never has a
news.
Democrat been more at risk than when curled up in the fetal position among other Democrats.
Well played.
Wow.
Well played.
Ouch, Scott, dude, that was a shit.
CBS is going to fire me now too.
Wow. Okay, Bill, let me hit you with a couple more of these. We're kind of moving down the food chain as we go along here. Tariq Nasheed said that terrorist Stephen Paddock, being from Mesquite, Nevada, the same place where armed white supremacists pointed guns at law enforcement, is not a coincidence, and we still don't know whether this guy was ISIS or crazy or deranged. But a white supremacist shooting up a country music concert is just insane. And then we get Ann, a school teacher and a self-declared member of the Resistance, who tweeted, "Lots of white Trump supporters in Las Vegas. Pray only Trump-tards die." Have we always hated each other this much, do you think, or is Twitter and Facebook just brought out something in us that wasn't really there before?
When we all grew up together watching television, that gave us a common culture. We all know what Gilligan's Island is, and we all knew what friends and cheers were and all the rest of it. But since the advent of the internet and the destruction of that common culture where we all sat around the same campfire, people go onto the internet and they go looking for what they are familiar with and what they're comfortable with. And I think that has really put a sincere, significant, very deep and perhaps irreparable divide into the psyche of this country. The two I want to talk about are, of the three, are the teacher, Trump tards. Now, if you think that she can say this in private or semi-private and not have it spill over to the kids in the classroom, you got another thing coming. Yeah. The other one, obviously, which is even more significant, is the CBS attorney, who was also a vice president at CBS, is my understanding. I can't stress this strongly enough. The language that the CBS executive used is the kind of language that they use every single day in those offices. Every single day, that's how they talk. And every single day, that's how they talk in the teacher's lounge. That's what they say. I've heard it. It's been a long time now, but I heard the way they talked about George Bush when I left my last job in 2008. It is just assumed that everybody of any kind of, any human being thinks the way they do. And this is how they think. Now, they're entitled to think how they want to. But we have in this particular case somebody who has significant influence in terms of some influence in terms of the information that that the American people get. And while she's not in charge of programming at CBS, as I said, I can assure you that everybody who is in charge of programming at CBS voted for Hillary Clinton, curled up in the fetal position, and is doing everything they can to make sure that the half of the country that won the election is completely convinced that the thing was a catastrophe and a mistake. And the same disregard for human life that you always find from leftists everywhere. I disagree with these people. I don't want them killed. I don't want any of these. I don't want progressives killed. If somebody shot up a group of progressives, I wouldn't say yay. I wasn't cheered when that Nazi drove that crowd drove the car through the Black Lives Matter crowd. I wanted the guy who did that. I wanted that Nazi son of a bitch punished, put in jail, and convicted of first-degree murder. That's what I wanted. So this dehumanization is a real problem, Steve. And if you think it, as I said, if you think it does not get into the news media or the movie industry or your children's heads directly, then you are as naive as I was 7-8 years ago.
Wow. Listen, there's all this blaming the victim going around on the left this week, even though we still don't know the motive of the shooter. But last night I learned a little something about just a small handful of these victims. Last night, my wife and I got in bed to read before we turned off the lights, after tucking the boys in. And it turns out she was actually texting with her best friend from high school. And I don't want to mention any names, but she's a transfusion nurse. Her husband is a Air Force pilot, formerly F-16s, and now he flies Reapers, I believe it is. They have 2 teenage kids, a son and a daughter, who had friends at the concert. Give me a moment. Melissa checked in with her friend who wrote, "All is well with us. The kids have a few friends that had surgery, still in the hospital, but stable. Unfortunately, I think the dad of one of her guy friends died a few moments ago." Left, right, Democrat, Republican? It was teenagers and mom and dad out enjoying a concert. That's all. Nobody deserved that. We're all supposed to be Americans. Nobody deserves that. And that's all I've got for you on that one. I hope you got something out of it. Be kind to each other, all right? Thanks.